that might come up in the conversation. So.
Hey, it's time for Thinking Real Estate. Laura Dwyer Schlecke, Bill Schlecke, or is it Bill and Laura?
It's Laura and Bill.
Okay.
There's no doubt about that. Was there?
You mean you're just a tag along? I doubt.
Were you in
that.
doubt about that?
Oh.
Not really.
Yeah, me neither.
I wanted to
And
make
nobody else is.
I wanted to make you feel good.
I don't even live under that illusion.
Right.
Or delusion.
Huh. It's good to know. Jackie is our witness. Well,
Hi, Laura.
did you have a good weekend?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you want to talk about? Yeah.
You?
Yeah.
What are we talking
I
about
was busy.
today?
Oh my God, real estate is.
Good.
I mean, there's a lot going on. A lot. I was with a couple yesterday for 3 hours just looking at one house.
And I taught my annual seminar to a bunch of the Jackson Realtors on Friday, and they all seem to be pretty busy. Things are hopping, so it was good. Can you imagine a 6-hour seminar having to listen to a lawyer pontificate
No.
for that period of time?
I think people have a hard time for this half hour. And
You said that.
think about that. Think
Hopefully
about my
hopefully-
life. That
hopefully
I
I
have to
don't-
live with the pontification.
Hopefully I don't pontificate for that period of time. We hold a discussion, I think most of the
All right. So, did they
It's
have
like-
any questions that you thought were brilliant?
Yeah, there were a whole bunch of questions. They wanted to talk a lot about oil and gas, and we had Bob Newman from American Title in class, who.
Where was Ron Ellison?
Ron, I actually talked to Ron right after the class because Bob told me something that I was completely unaware of, has not crossed my desk through either the real property law section of the State Bar or through the Institute for Continuing Legal Education, which I get daily updates from both of those organizations. And for everybody who is buying property now in Michigan and in other states, as of June, and we actually went back and looked at some of the policies that I've had and commitments that I've had in deals over the last several months. And it was about June 20, June 26, somewhere there, where several of the large title underwriters have now changed their policies, and property purchasers need to be aware of this, where they are no longer ensuring that you are acquiring the mineral rights to the property, which is mind-boggling, absolutely mind-boggling, because if I'm buying property in the state of Michigan, or my client is buying it, my client thinks they're getting the oil and gas rights. They are the mineral rights, but primarily oil and gas rights right now. And so with this change in the insurance industry, title insurance industry, we have no guarantee that in fact those oil and gas rights or those mineral rights are being transferred. It was shocking to me, and it is literally mind-boggling that they are not doing it. And the underwriters are directing their local title agents not to even search for oil and gas leases, not to show them on the policy even though they are a matter of record. And every lawyer representing purchasers of real estate and every purchaser of real estate needs to know this and needs to deal with it, because I'm not going to guarantee it. I need to get at least a title search from somebody that's going to tell me whether or not the oil and gas rights are even owned by the existing seller, and if so, are we going to get them to the purchaser?
That seems like a no-brainer, doesn't it?
Man, I'll tell you what, Greg, it's just, but apparently what happened is First American Title got burned on a case where somebody missed a recorded oil and gas lease, and they got sued. The underwriter got sued on the policy, and now you have the issue of what are the damages. You know, the claim of First American was that the amount that they owe on the policy is the difference between the property with the oil and gas or subsurface rights and without, ignoring the fact that on that particular property they had drilled for oil and gas and found it. So now the amount of revenue that's going to be generated in the future is going to exceed what the original purchase price, probably will exceed the purchase price of the property. So the underwriter's response was, hey, we're not going to take this risk anymore in the future. So I can't tell my clients they're going to get oil and gas rights. I can't guarantee that. This is in addition, I can't get a riparian endorsement. If you're on a lake, I used to be able to get an endorsement that said,
So what
we're
do you
ensuring
have
access
title
to the
insurance
lake.
for then?
to insure quote
And
marketable title.
do we have
unquote.
to have title insurance?
You don't have to have title insurance, but you're nuts as a purchaser not to get title
Well, why-
insurance.
why?
And now, if you're purchasing property, since they're not insuring oil and gas rights, I'm gonna have to tell my purchasers, we need to go find somebody that will do a title search and give us the results of that title search. And I'm here to tell you as a lawyer, I'm not gonna guarantee you're getting oil and gas rights. All I can tell you is this is what the search reveals, that there are no oil and gas leases of record or other subsurface interests of record. Seriously, this is a huge issue. I'm gonna bring it to the real property law section at the State Bar of Michigan, because I don't think they know about it. And none of the title companies told us about it. It's just, I found out about it by chance in the seminar that I taught on Friday.
Thank God Bob Newman's smart enough to go to your class.
Yeah, look, I use Bob Newman and Ron Ellis at American Title all the time, and I bounce title questions off them, they bounce legal questions off me, and I mean, it's a good symbiotic relationship, and that was well worth the price of admission for me on Friday, particularly since I got paid to teach the seminar.
Since Bob paid
And Bob
you.
had to pay, yeah.
Yeah, Bob had to pay you.
Yeah, so if they're listening, if Ron or Bob are listening, I told Ron I want to take him to lunch this week to talk about how we're going to address this particular situation. It's difficult. It's difficult.
So what else does the title insurance policy cover that would
Well-
make it worth my while to
Well,
recommend to my
marketable,
clients?
no, marketable title of the property.
Right.
They're ensuring that, in fact, the person who purports to own it and is conveying the title by deed or other instrument of conveyance actually has legal title to the property, and determining whether or not there are any outstanding interests, such as mortgages, easements, other liens, things like that. Those are still covered under the title commitment because those are things of record. But you got to remember that you have the standard exceptions to a policy. If there's something that isn't of record that would show up on a survey and no survey is done, that's an exception from coverage. Mechanics liens or construction liens rather, not of record, or construction liens not of record because you have a 90-day grace period to file your lien, those aren't covered. Rights of parties in possession, that's another one. Now you got to look at your Schedule B1 on your title commitment, and that will give you what the exceptions are. They list them. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is just one more that's been added. You got to read what your exceptions are. And the B1 exceptions that showed up on one of the commitments that Bob and I looked at on Friday had 10 now exceptions in it. There are the
Hang on.
3 standard
Hang on a
exceptions and then the rest.
You taking calls, Bill?
It depends on who it is.
Good morning.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Good. You have a question?
Yeah, just a teacher where this is all leading to government, is gonna have all rights to mineral and, subsurface.
No, this has nothing to do with governmental rights to subsurface, and you're thinking of the city of Jackson's claim to the subsurface rights on Michigan Center Lake. This doesn't have anything to do with it. This has to do with whether or not, if I buy a parcel of property, does the seller actually own the subsurface rights, or have they been conveyed or leased out in the past? And now, on my title commitment, I can no longer get that information, nor can I get assurance that if the title company screwed up and missed something of record, that it will actually be covered under the policy. That's the issue. It doesn't have anything to do with governmental rights to subsurface minerals or oil or gas.
So they're just making sure that they're not involved in any type of, minerals in the future. They don't want to be brought into any lawsuit.
Right, yeah, let me give you an example. One of those longtime standard exceptions has been matters which are disclosed by an accurate survey. The title company doesn't know if there's an encroachment onto an adjoining property or an encroachment from an adjoining property onto the property being conveyed. And so it says, hey, look, without a survey, we're not going to insure that. So what you do is you get a survey and they'll remove that particular exception. Same thing with construction liens, same thing with respect of tenants who are in possession. Those are all exceptions, but I've always had a way to get rid of those exceptions. What I was told on Friday by Bob is that the underwriter is not going to remove that exception no matter what. And what's really disconcerting is the interests are of record. In other words, the title company will actually find these things when it does a search of the records at the Register of Deeds. This is the first time I've ever had a title company or an underwriter, really in the history of writing title insurance, come back and say, we are not going to insure against those things that actually appear of record at the Register of Deeds. This is unprecedented.
Okay.
Okay?
Thanks for the call.
Yeah. I mean, we're in a real world of turmoil here between this and the stormwater fee and the recent lawsuit and all that happy sort of stuff, okay? So,
One happy.
I heard your interviews, by
One-
the way.
one happy
last
City
week.
Hall.
Yeah, I heard your interviews last week.
I'm just,
You're just here listening, aren't
I'm a
you?
facilitator.
You know what? I like to think of you as a fomenter, not a facilitator.
I'm not a fomenter.
You're a fomenter.
No, he's not a fomenter.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Tempest in a teapot, isn't it? Because no matter which way it comes down, and look, I hold John McBain in high regard, campaigned for him, contributed to him. I mean, I think he's a good judge and speaks his mind, which is a
Freely.
Well, but that's a good thing for a judge, I think.
I
And,
think
and
so.
you know, they're in a position where they can get attacked very easily, and they have very little chance or
unlike
opportunity
city
to
council
respond.
people?
Unlike city council people, I mean, you can get attacked. You know, I mean, I saw
Yeah.
your comment to Will Forgrave in terms of this thing, and then you read the bloggers, and these bloggers have no idea. You know, they have no idea what you can vote on and what you can't vote on. But at any rate,
Or what you can disclose and not disclose.
but let me give you the bottom line on it here, and that is, it's a tempest in a teapot, because if you think about it, if you go behind whether it's a judgment levy tax or anything else, who is going to pay for the stormwater refund? Who's going to pay? The taxpayers of the city. That's where the city gets its revenue from the taxpayers. It's
They
not like
pay
they
for
go
everything.
somewhere else.
They pay for everything.
Well, so whether you call it a judgment levy tax or whether you get it out of general funds or you get it from a special, however you do it, it's still going to come out of the same pot, you
Pocket.
know, same pocket,
Just
not
go-
pot. So anyway, I didn't want to get bogged down in that conversation, but I thought
But
that.
he started it.
But I thought that I didn't want to get bogged
You're
down.
not bogged down in
But I
it.
just mentioned, but I thought that your interviews with both the mayor and Judge McBain last week were very, very interesting.
And so did a lot of other people.
Okay. I really, Judge McBain is a very good judge, and he's a very knowledgeable judge, and I actually took a look at the briefs on both sides, and, you know, this is an issue which is not an easy issue on which to make a decision, but as I say, when you get right down to the bottom of it, taxpayers are gonna have to pay for it
Right.
no matter what.
And it's
That's
our
only-
duty
it's only
to
source of-
minimize
source of
the
funds.
damage that was created years
Anyway.
ago.
So last week, we
Yeah,
actually.
call it what you want to call it.
Right.
We pay for everything.
Correct.
Well, yeah, I mean, where does the municipality get its money? It doesn't like fall out of the sky, and it's certainly not the state government that's.
The
gonna
only
give us
difference
money.
between the tax levy, I don't know, let me think.
Anyway, well, but we.
Yeah,
Yeah,
forget
think
You
it.
about
better hang on.
Yeah.
hang on to
no.
that thought, because last week we actually I started talking about a subject which was raised the week before, and then we got sidetracked. You asked me a question about, was it oil and gas or something like that?
Oh, we just
But-
talked about oil and gas.
Briefly, but not that was just the title.
It's good to know you can think that far back, because my birthday's coming up, and I don't want them to forget about it.
My daughter's birthday's coming up
Oh, yours
first, so I
is
gotta think
first.
about that.
Yeah,
So,
she's first.
and then my birthday's after that, and then your birthday. So, all right, at any rate, we were talking about legal descriptions, and we never finished off that conversation.
So go for it.
Okay, well,
I don't
we-
know where you were going with that.
Well, we were talking about the 4 methods of legal description, and we only got into the one, which was the government survey, and we didn't get much farther than getting the principal meridian and the baseline.
Oh, I
Before we
remember
got
that.
sidetracked.
I
okay?
remember now.
All right, it's all coming
The
back to you.
Meridian. Yep.
Yeah, and Meridian Road and Baseline Road and all that stuff, okay? And then you form it into townships. Each township is formed into 36 sections. Each section is 1 mile square. Township's 36 miles square. And then you divide your sections into quarter sections, half sections, etc. Each section is approximately, or 640 acres more or less. The reason you have more or less is because of the curvature of the earth. So now you have an easy way, you know, when I talk about the northwest quarter, the southwest quarter, I want to determine the acreage. I take the denominators of those fractions. 4 times 4 is 16, divide into 640. I know I have a 40-acre piece more or less. It's real straightforward. And if you ever hear the terms, you know, some of the terms, particularly in the oil and gas industry, were called the stand-up 80s or lay-down 80s. Have you ever heard those terms?
No.
Have you, Laura?
No.
Stand-up 80 is simply 80 acres that runs north and south.
Okay.
Lay down 80 is 80 acres that's like a south half of a quarter section.
No. Interesting.
Yeah, quarter section.
Who knew?
Who knew? I didn't know that.
I know. A common term for people who have been in this industry for probably way too long.
Right.
Yeah.
I've only been
like
in
me.
it 31 years, so
I've been in it 42.
yeah.
So ostensibly, all the counties should be about the same size?
No, counties are different. Counties are not the same. Townships were set up as 36 square miles, but then you had government lots. When you got to, for example, you take townships along Lake Michigan, Lake Huron, Lake Superior, because you can't carve out a square 36 miles, you now have an uneven township line. And then what happens too is, as municipalities grow or expand, they may annex adjoining parcels of property to them. So your townships aren't necessarily going to be a square of 36 miles, but you can go, I don't know if there are any in the lower peninsula, but you can go up in the upper peninsula, and you'll find some townships that don't have names. They're still township X North, Range 7 East. So that
Where?
in the upper
Way up.
peninsula.
Wow.
Yeah. Because there's nobody there, so there's no
Yeah.
township supervisor, there's no township running it, and everything within that township is actually regulated by the county.
I'd run for office there.
Do you think you'd win?
Only
Probably not.
Only the deer, the bear, and the wolverines are voting.
There you go.
Yeah, and I told you this morning before we started, don't talk to me
will
about
never.
the wolverines.
Not today.
No, don't
Or
talk to
Brady
me about
Hope.
the wolverines. Yeah, how long do you think he'll be there? And so much for sports.
But the Lions
That's enough
won.
sports
The Lions
today.
won, didn't they?
They did, yes.
They did.
So, no, enough for sport. But at any rate, so that's government survey, and that actually forms the basis. When you look at your legal description on a deed in Michigan or in Illinois or in Indiana and anywhere in what were formerly the Northwest Territories, that's the starting point for all of it. And they'll tell you what county, what township, and that township is a product of the government survey. And then you'll get to either continuation of the government survey, the Northwest quarter, the Southwest quarter, etc., or you'll get to one of the three other descriptions: meets and bounds, condo, or subdivision. One of those.
This is sounding like one of your lectures.
It is. This is one of these pontificating lectures, and I really apologize
Okay,
for it.
maybe that's a good question.
I don't mean to do that. Sorry about that. Okay. So I didn't mean to deliver a monologue. So,
Were there any other good questions at your class?
oh, tons. It was a really good class. We had tons of questions. I didn't get through all the material
Oh, that
as
surprises
normal.
us. Right.
But there were a lot of stuff about oil and gas, not just this issue raised by Bob Newman in American Title, but also talking about exploration, about drilling, fracking, angle hole drilling, horizontal drilling, all of these things that people are concerned about, local regulation of oil and gas, the Scioto Township, I don't want to call it battle, but Scioto Township adoption of a moratorium on oil and gas exploration, West Bay's continuation of drilling, the fact they came up with a dry hole on that particular drill, up at that particular well, so those things. But yeah, there are more. Maybe next week, because I know
Sure.
you want to talk about what your listings are.
Maybe next week we can talk about the importance of a road maintenance agreement,
Sure.
private road maintenance.
Remember, I'm a lawyer. I can talk on any
But,
subject
clearly.
for any length of time, whether I know anything about it or not.
Right. All right, so we have some great listings ranging all the way from, I was looking for the least expensive one, 55,000, which is on at 200 North Thompson, 2-bedroom, 1 bath, just under 900 square feet. That is a short sale. And all the way up to 299,000, which is 1830 Lockmore, which is a great sprawling ranch, 5 bedrooms, 4 baths. That'd be perfect for your retirement, Greg.
Yeah.
And close to work.
It's right out here, isn't
It
it?
is.
Yeah.
Well,
It
okay, if
is.
it was good for his retirement, he wouldn't be working, so
Oh,
he
that's
doesn't need to be
true.
close to work.
Well, he
And
could move.
I want you to use a
He
little
could-
logic
he-
here.
They might have him as a guest or something. And
Oh, no.
that's just under 4,000
No.
square feet. I can't win. And this weekend we have 2 really good houses with open houses. 2701 Forest Lake, which move-in ready, all new carpet, granite counters in the kitchen. All you need to do is buy a stove, and that one's all set. The deck is all redone, freshly painted. 3 bedrooms, 2 full baths, under 1,500 square feet for $119,900. And then a really cute farmhouse, 5515 Kibbe Road, 134,900, 3 bedrooms, 1.5 baths, 1,528 square feet, hardwood floors, a 3+ car garage, sits on an acre of land, Western School District. And those 2 open houses are from 1 to 2:30.
Can I give a quick shout out to the staff at Ella Sharp, because I
No.
went to a wedding there.
Yeah, go ahead.
Went to a wedding on Saturday night, the wedding of Kelly Rowley, daughter of a good friend of mine, Chris Rowley. And I will tell you that the staff at Ella Sharp did a remarkable job, as did Chris Rowley and his wife and everybody
Well,
who
the
put on
and
the wedding. But it was really,
catering
really
was
nice.
done by the company at the Commonwealth Center.
But the staff, many
Okay.
kudos to the staff at
Also,
Ella Sharp. They
the
did a good job.
Reagan barbecue is this weekend, Sunday.
Is Ronald going to be there?
In spirit.
I'm
In
not
spirit
expecting
only?
him.
In spirit only, all right. Nice to see
You
you.
will be
Greg.
there?
I will be there after my open house. 7,
Good
8.
time to buy a house right now?
Yeah, there's great property. I think the hardest part about buying real estate right now is getting the mortgage. But
There's actually a little bit of a loosening up in the mortgage market.
yeah, I
There's
think
a-
rates are dropping.
Well, and also the availability. They're loosening up some of the criteria
so.
a little bit, so it
I
it
think
is
the
getting a
government
little
should
easier.
forgive, do something about the student loan debt that's out there, because that's why a lot of people can't get mortgages. is
A lot of
because
young
of
people,
student-
but there is a loosening of the credit standards. I was just reading an article last week about it, and the fact that we are now starting to see.
I'm voting to
a little
forgive that debt.
I,
bit. Me too, because my daughter has a substantial chunk of that.
We've got a lot of it.
yeah, there should be something. Make it not count towards, give it 0 interest rate.
The
I don't know
problem
what
is
it
it's all private lenders that, through government programs, but it's private lenders, so you
Right.
can't simply forgive it. The government would have to do something in terms of making
Well, they
certain that
certainly
the
give
lenders-
other handouts.
We'll see you
Might
next
as well do
Monday.
that one.
See you next Monday.
780-3800.
Thinking real estate.
Legacy Assisted Living.